Hi, I'm Mark Mancini with VRBO Outstanding. This week's episode, lighting. This week, we're going to talk about lighting because lighting serves a couple different purposes. Lighting is for safety, security, and obviously the hidden one is aesthetics. So we're going to talk about each and the importance in your short-term rental. So let's first talk about security. There are weeks throughout the year your short-term rental is simply not booked. So what you want to do is make sure the house looks like it may be occupied. But you don't want to have to keep coming down and turning on and off lights. And that's where you'll utilize some of the different features like dusk to dawn lighting. So we're going to talk more about that in just a few minutes. Also want to talk about safety. And there's a reason for that. Years ago, I had a guest come and they left a review. They enjoyed the place. I didn't get a 5-star review, I got a 4-star review. And the reason being, they said that there wasn't enough lighting in the rear of the house where the steps were. And they suggested I put in lights because they felt as though it was unsafe, it was an older gentleman, and that would be better suited for the property. So I actually responded to his review and I said, thank you very much for that. I never consider that because I'm used to the home and know where the stairs are. But many people who come to visit your home do not. And this happened years ago, and it made me think about that because these people, first time at your home, and also, aside from not knowing where steps and different things are, they don't know where your switches are either. So that's why having switches to turn on and off lights is an issue versus dusk to dawn lighting. The other thing is too, people often go out to eat at night. And then they'll come back, they'll forget to turn the lights on. And as a result, they come back to a dark house and it's very unfamiliar to them, and that's a safety issue. But also, there's the aesthetics. You have to admit, our house looks sexy, doesn't it? So, we're going to talk about what you can do with uplighting, landscape lighting, and even dusk to dawn to give it a better, more polished look. Because don't forget, some of the pictures that you take for your short-term rental are going to be nighttime shots. So let's take a closer look. So we're next door to our neighbor's house. They've got a couple of house lights around their house over here. This nice overhead light over the garage. Now this is not on a switch. He actually has this on a dusk to dawn, and it's got a sensor. And dusk to dawn is just that. It turns on at dusk, turns off at dawn. Make sure you always use LED lighting because LED is going to last a lot longer and not cost as much money when you run your electricity. Now, the dusk to dawn, for instance, on this overhead light is a great use of dusk to dawn, but you can also get wall sconces that are dusk to dawn as well. So we're going to show you that as well. So for your outdoor wall sconces in front of your front entrance, don't have these on a switch. Because again, we just talked about, if someone leaves and comes back later than they thought, they don't know where the switch is, they didn't leave it on before they left. You can get these wall sconces that are dusk to dawn and it'll turn on automatically at night. Now the other rental I just sold over in South Carolina, we had these wall sconces throughout the second floor and we used the dusk to dawn feature. And we actually had to block off a lot of the light switches. So I had to use an electrician because there was something that I wasn't capable of doing, is to wire it so it stayed on, because the dusk to dawn you want wired on all the time. But we blocked off the switch, and so we put a flat plate on there so guests couldn't turn off the dusk to dawn light. Now that's important. You want to keep that light on. So no need having a switch, just block it off. So that's the other thing you'll want to do with your dusk to dawn lighting. Not give your guests the chance to turn it off. Make sure it's always on, and as I said, remove the switch from the circuit, just put a flat cover plate on it and you'll be set. Now, another thing too I want to talk about are solar lights. You're going to want to run wired lighting as often as possible for a couple reasons. One, it's the brightest, but two, aesthetically it looks a lot better. Now, I know there are some good solar lights you can get, and some I know have your cameras, your Ring spotlight and cameras, and Eufy and other brands. So those are options when you simply cannot have a wired light fixture. So when I had that stair issue for the guest at my South Carolina home, we used a solar light for that, and it was a good temporary solution. You only need a diffuse light. We didn't need a big spotlight, just something so they can see the stairs. Another consideration too are the lights that are built into the stairs. Okay, they wire them in, the wire goes behind the stairs, and it lights up the steps. You put them in every 3 or 4 steps, and that is also a good alternative. So remember, keep your area safe. And now we're going to talk about something just as important, landscape lighting. So with landscape lighting, you have a couple different choices on how you can utilize lights. Now, as you can see here, we've got a couple lights that are used to uplight the wall and light the wall and highlight the house. And we do that throughout the first level of the house to give it a good effect. Now, that's one way to utilize landscape lighting, is to have an uplight. What that does, it brings focus and draws focus to the house. So aesthetically, it highlights the house. Safety-wise though, doesn't do a whole lot. Now, what you can do safety-wise is you can get those stem lights and you can put those along a path. And those stem lights you can do about every 6 to 10 feet and illuminate a path. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with landscape lighting, it's super easy. Now, we're not going to go into it in this video on how to set up landscape lighting, but I'm sure if you go to YouTube, there are a bunch of videos. The reason why it's so easy is this, and we talked about this in our Tiki build. I love landscape lighting because there is a central transformer that plugs into your AC power. Then it transforms it to 12 volts DC. It's a 2-wire system. So when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, you get this 2-wire and it's attached, and it'll split apart too if you want it to. And this 2-wire system you bury underground, and you get the lights, and the lights tap into it with these clamps, and they've got a metal spike, and it goes on each side of the wire, and it gets both the positive and negative to illuminate the light. And it's very low cost. It's very easy to install and set up. You can do it yourself. And again, defer to YouTube and learn how to set that up. And with the transformers, one thing I will definitely make sure to tell you from my experience is there's something called attenuation. So what happens is you run your wire further out, and the further you go, you're going to lose your amperage in your wire, and the lights will get dimmer and dimmer. So that's why you may need multiple transformers, so you keep the look very consistent. You don't want to have that look where it's tapering off towards the end. And again, landscape lighting is very inexpensive, very easy to use. They're all LED now. Now, I know that there's solar landscape lights. They're just not as powerful. The batteries don't last as long. They usually don't go through the night. But the biggest thing, they're just not going to be as bright as this. They'll be close, but just simply not the same. So don't get drawn into the ease of just putting a spike into the ground with those solar lights. Invest in a wired system. You can easily trench it. You don't have to go a couple inches underground, and go ahead and get a couple of those transformers. It makes a world of difference. One of the things we talked about in our episode about docks is the pier and pier lights. And what we have are these inexpensive, I want to say they're about $10. I got them from Amazon. Now, these are solar lights because it's going to be hard running a couple hundred feet of wire out to the dock. But this is a nice strong LED light. The purpose of this is simply to light the path so people know where the delineation is of the pier. And we have these set up to, right now it's on full blast, but we have it set up so that it dims out, and then it has a motion detector in it, and when someone walks nearby, it turns it to bright. So I think that's a great effective way. It allows the lights to stay on almost the entire night. These last a couple years, and then we have to replace it. You see how it went dim, have some motion by it, and it lights up. So as I walk down the path, you should start seeing these different lights come on. And again, this does provide a great aesthetic to the pier and allows people to be safe and enjoy going out to the dock during the night when it's still pretty, but still feel safe. So let's go take a look at one more thing out by the end of the dock, our barn light. In one of our early episodes, we talked about docks and boat lifts, etc. And I mentioned the barn light that we had installed. I want to say this was under $50 on Amazon, definitely under $50. And this wires directly into your power. And of course, it is a dusk to dawn light. So it's got a sensor on it. It only comes on at night. It turns off in the morning. And as you can see, it brightens up this whole water and dock area here. So if someone's coming in from a boat ride at night, they have plenty of visibility. Plus, if I'm navigating down the ICW and I want to know where my house is and also which dock is mine, guess what? I've got this big bright LED light right here, and this light's been here 4 or 5 years and it's running flawlessly. So makes for a nice beacon when I come home from boating, and I'm able to see everything very clearly. Again, the boat lift is right here. So putting the boat on the lift and coming back in, we've got a nice safe environment. Your boaters, your anglers, your fishermen, right, who rent your short-term rental are gonna love your LED dusk to dawn barn light, so that when they come in from fishing or in the morning when they leave bright and early at 5 a.m., they've got a safe place to go. We're gonna go over to my neighbors who have their own pier and boat docks over here, and look at all those piers. There's several piers behind me, and none of them have lights. Now you'll see one of the neighbors has some faint lights, looks like some pier lights along the path, but no one's got that barn light lighting up their boat lift, and makes it very hard for them to come in at night. And again, this is something that boaters appreciate. I can tell you that after having boats for decades, this is something that makes a boating environment safe. And so as you can see, lighting is not only for security, safety, but aesthetics. I'd like to point out, case in point, look at our neighbors. As you go down the road, and then look at our house. One stands out and looks majestic above the others. That should be your short-term rental as well. Have it very well lit. Don't be afraid to illuminate it. Take your pictures at night, and make sure in the first 4 pictures of your listing on Airbnb or VRBO, you have a nighttime shot, because this sells. And it's very, very, I'm just gonna say majestic, sexy, whatever you wanna call it. It's a good look. So aside from the other things we talked about, you wanna highlight your house, put a focus on it. It's the center point. So thanks again for joining me this week on VRB Outstanding, and please hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you again next week.